Hello everybody, my name is ManuS and welcome to another MTG Card Market modern video series of mine. Today I want to experiment some with Big Zoo, aka Naya Company, depending on what you want to call it. But really it's just basically the old Big Zoo approach that gained collected company since the release of the card. And it also got one other new recent tool in Renegade Relia, which also happens to synergize really well with the collected company and also with some of the cheap, very powerful early drops, especially the 2-drops Tarmogoyf, Ooze, and Kasali Brightmage. Currently I'm trying 4 Seal of Fire over 4 Lightning Bolt, simply because there's not really anything major that dies to Lightning Bolt but doesn't die to Seal of Fire off the top of my head. So a lot of the time in terms of removal it won't make much of a difference. The mana efficiency from Seal of Fire, being able to just drop it and then keep tapping out, can come in pretty handy. The fact that it's an enchantment is nice for Tarmogoyf, especially given that we already have 8 other instants. And yeah, obviously it's included to synergize with Renegade Relia, since in the matchups where you want to kill a lot of cheap creatures, you can just play it, kill something, Renegade Relia to get it back and kill another creature, basically turning Renegade Relia into a mini Flame Tonkavu. Then we have Kasali Brightmages that we can get back to kill more enchantments or artifacts, which is nice, or just get back a regular threat. And there's also 2 lands to get back aside from the typical just fetch land to ramp, which is Ghost Quarter to keep crippling something like Tron, for example, and Horizon Canopy just to draw a card if all we want is just basically a free 3-2 that gets us deeper into our deck. And yeah, other than that we just have the typical like Big Zoo staples, 4 Hierarch, 4 Wild Nacatl, 4 Tarmogoyf, 4 Knight of the Reliquary, basically the creature heart of the deck, 4 Pass to Exile to deal with anything annoying, especially Death Shadow and big Eldrazi's, or Primeval Titan out of Titan Shift, or the recursive creatures from Dredge, for example. I decided to go with Ooze and Kasali as my 2-drops, simply because Ooze is just a very powerful threat in itself and has a lot of applications against a lot of unfair decks like Living End, Dredge, Storm and so on, while also just being a solid threat and source of life gain against decks like Burn, also helps against decks with Snapcaster Mage, and so on and so forth. There's a lot it can do in Modern, so it's just a good card to have if you are not all-in aggressive anymore. And Kasali just synergizes really nicely with Renegade Relia. Another alternative would be Voice of Resurgence. The problem I have with Voice is that it just doesn't do that much right now. The punishment of doing stuff, the opponent doing stuff on my turn is not that big and that relevant, especially right now. There's not that many instant heavy decks. It is good against like Liliana of the Veil, Jund type decks, which are also not that prevalent right now. And yeah, I rather have the utility from Bright Mage against decks like Lantern Control, Affinity, stuff like that. It can even sometimes kill Eidolon of the Great Revel against Burn. It just does a bunch of stuff and also adds some nice pressure with the Exalted, or like helps to win a Goyf on Goyf stall and stuff like that. So all in all, I like that better than Voice that I've seen in some people's list. And yeah, we have 22 lands plus the Hierarchs. In the past, decks like this have often ran an extra Birds of Paradise, but I think that's less good here simply because Relia can provide extra mana to hit 4 if we need to, and also turn 1 Mana Dog into turn 2 Renegade Relia is just not that strong of a play, because at that point you usually only get back another land, so there's just a little less incentive for ramping compared to in the past where Renegade Rallier used to be a Loxodon Smiter, so going one drop Accelerant into 3-drop Beater was more powerful of a play, basically. Then let's take a quick look at the sideboard. We have a Blast Alliance as like an additional removal against Death Shadow and big Eldrazi's and stuff like that. Also serves as a life gain source against Burn, and it's just like an overall decent flexible card to have in the sideboard to cover a couple of bases. Then we have our anti-affinity package of 1 Kataki to be able to have at least one 8 card that we can hit with our 4 collected companies. Not multiples because it's not that good of a hate card, and also it's legendary, so drawing multiples doesn't really get us anywhere. So that's why there's Stony Silence, which is the most reliable hate card basically, because it's really hard for them to answer and shuts them down about as hard as Kataki, but doesn't get hit by our company. So that's the split. And then just 1 Grudge that can come in against Affinity and various other decks where we want some extra artifact removal. Not sure how good or needed this slot is right now, but it's something that I'm keeping an eye on, that I'm currently toying around with. Then we have 2 Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, against all the like faster decks with a lot of cheap spells like Lantern Control, Burn, Storm, and a bunch of other decks. There's just like a wide variety where this can come in. Some random control decks. Even against Death Shadow it's pretty nice because they're very spell heavy. So just a solid card that helps us hedge a bit against certain decks and also works with our company. 3-core Firewalker as Burn Hate because Burn is quite a big deal again. On Magic Online I think it's like 4th most played deck right now, so it's definitely good to have a showstopper against them, and that happens to be the best, or at least one of the best cards against Burn, while also being able to be found with Collected Company, which makes it even better. Then I have currently 1 Blood Moon and 1 Magus of the Moon, mostly because I couldn't get my hands on more and because I want to see how much I like Magus of the Moon. Optimally I think I would probably want 2 to 3 of this effect, and probably 2 Blood Moon and like 1 Magus for similar reasons as the Kataki Stony Silence split. This is less reliable but can be hit with company and so on. And then we have 2 Tomod Script, which synergizes really well with Renegade Rallier and just is really powerful against decks like Living End, Dredge, Storm and other fringe graveyard-based decks. And 1 Ratchet Bomb as like a token sweeper and sort of like catch-all answer that we can also buy back with Renegade Rallier if we need to. So that's the list for now. I'm gonna hop into a competitive league as usual. So stay tuned for the first match coming up in a moment. Thanks for watching.